at that point, you're not there to play it safe. Like if you're not taking risks, you're not competing.
It's empowering. I mean, anybody who's done a CrossFit workout, you finish your CrossFit workout and you're like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like a hunger for competition and like that super intense structure, routine. I still had that desire.
Listen to the way people feel and the motivations for doing the things that they did. It was like they were describing me to a T.
I'm not trying to solve everything for you, but I know that sometimes you just need somebody to listen.
Learned the most is how to fill my cup by filling others.
Welcome to the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast. Join me as I talk with passionate people about their life's failures and successes, and most importantly, what keeps them hungry for more. What up, dogs? Welcome back to another episode of the Hungry Dog Barbell Podcast here. If my voice sounds a little bit more jacked up than usual, Super Total just took place this past weekend. I was basically screaming for 8 hours with all the hype going on, but we're still back to record. Today, I'm joined by CrossFit coach, fellow CrossFit coach, CrossFit gym owner of CrossFit Raid. I just said CrossFit so many times. Justin Rementer. Justin, how are you today, dude?
What's up, man? I'm doing well.
That's good, man. It's a nice, beautiful Tuesday out here. Like, did you coach your first class today, or is it 12 o'clock your first one?
I coached the 6 a.m. And then I coached the noon today.
Do you guys have a midday, like a mid-morning class in between there?
Nah, we ran a 9 a.m. for a little while back when I first opened, and it kind of died off. And then we brought it back either just before or just after the COVID shutdown. I can't remember which one it was. A lot of people said they were going to be interested, and then it just kind of didn't pan out the way we thought it would. So we do noon, then 6 a.m. then noon.
That's like the trials and tribulations, the learning process of running a gym, owning a gym, and all those things. We'll go back to the beginning in a second, but I want to ask you real quick, what's like the demographic of your gym? Like the average age range, or do you just have like a wide gap?
The oldest is, I think, 64, youngest is 15 or 16. So we have a wide gap, but I would say average age is right in that like mid to late 30s, probably.
Right. Like all the former athletes coming out, like want to still work out and all those things.
Exactly. Yes, exactly that.
What about your classes? Do you have like a variety of classes, or is it just all the one CrossFit class? Like, do you have a teens class? Do you have a master's class? Do you have any of that?
We do everything's CrossFit. We've run endurance classes, barbell cycles, all that stuff. It's something I want to get back into. Hopefully soon. It's just, I'm always hesitant to like because all of our classes, like the class times that we would have something like that at are pretty popular. So I'm always hesitant to kind of pull that away. Like, a 5:30 Wednesday night class. I don't want to pull that away if that's the only time that those, 8 to 10 people can make it to a CrossFit class and kind of take opportunity away from them. So it's kind of tough to juggle around, but it's definitely something that I would like to do more of if I can find a good logistical way to do it.
If you could add more hours to the day and stuff,
add more hours to the day.
The popular hours, right? Because like everyone generally has the same schedule. So like the popular classes are the ones where people are either before work or after work, or like a midday time where they have that hour,
Right.
But what you just said there is really important, right? For any coaches out there or hopeful business owners, you can always add to your schedule, but you have to be smart when you do that, because you never want to take away, like that is where things become poor. If you put a class on the schedule, even if it's lowly attended, and then you suddenly take it away, people like always feel a way about that,
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, we are a CrossFit gym. That's what we started as, that's what we do.
Right.
That's our bread and butter. So that's one thing that I don't want to take away. As helpful as all those other classes are, the idea of CrossFit is, general overall fitness. So I don't want to take away from that to work on something too specific.
Right.
That's kind of the opposite of what our ideology is.
Our mythos is, right. We love CrossFit. That's why we got into it.
Right.
It could be funny. People like will laugh and call us a cult, but we do love CrossFit for everything that it does.
I've given up on saying that it's not a cult. Like people are like, "Oh, you guys are a cult." I'm like, you're right, but it's like kind of a good one, I guess. We're not a bad cult.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
People come in there, they change their lives mostly for the better all the time. But let's go back now, dude. So you guys are out in Bucks County, right?
Yeah, Ben Salem.
Is that where you're from? Like, how did you grow up? Were you an athlete your whole life? Like, tell me about all that.
So I grew up in Northeast Philly. I was not an athlete. I was a chubby kid. I would play, football, basketball at the playground, but no organized sports. I played soccer when I was 4, which I have like no recollection of. And I maybe for a season, I think, and then that was it. Never played sports on any organized teams. Didn't really get into it until like high school, as far as like, just pick up games, whatever we could play. And then I didn't start hitting the gym until right at the end of my senior year of high school is when I started getting into just like, your basic meathead kind of workouts with a couple of my buddies.
Couple curls, couple bench press.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So how did you like discover CrossFit?
So I worked at a bar in the Northeast from 8th grade. I started there. Nice. And I worked, I was a dishwasher and busboy and all that. And then when I was bartending, one of the DJs, it was actually my best friend's cousin. Him and his wife had just started a CrossFit Generation. And he knew that I was like kind of a gym rat at that point. I was in college. I was in college at that point. And I was at my college gym all the time, nonstop. Nice. And he knew I was, at the time, me and his cousin, who was one of my best friends, we were looking for something different instead of just the, 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 12, whatever it may be. And he was like, "Oh, come try this thing out." Like Angela got me into it. It's called CrossFit, blah, blah, blah. And I was 20 or 21 at the time. This is back in 2010 or 11. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, they were doing a Fight Gone Bad fundraiser for Wounded Warriors Project."
Nice.
And he's like, "Come out, blah, blah, blah. Like, see if you like it." So I bartended the night before, went there on very little sleep. 20, 21-year-old meathead, like peak confidence.
You could do that back then, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I thought I could. First 5, I'm sure everyone or most people that listen to this know Fight Gone Bad, but 3 5-minute rounds, minute of rest in between. I went outside after my first 5-minute round, threw up on the side of the building.
Yes.
And just had like pure tunnel vision, like that woozy tunnel vision. And I'll just never forget. It was a fundraiser thing. So they had like people judging us and whatnot. And I felt so bad for the woman judging me because she was being so sweet. Like, "You can do this. You got it." And I was like, "No, I don't. Like, I do not. I can't do it." But I finished it, but I was, and back then, I don't think anyone really knew about pacing much back then in the early days of CrossFit. And especially someone who's never done it before. I started on the rower my first minute. I think I rode like 27, 28 calories. Not that not that that's setting the world on fire, but for someone who's never done it before, it was like, not the best strategy. So things went downhill real fast.
That's awesome.
But then like anyone else, like you get done that and you're like, "Oh, that was awesome." Like, it was a wake up call. Like I thought I was in shape, but apparently not. So where do I sign up?
So you got like that high from it right away, and you fell in love
immediately. Because like I said, like we were looking for something more anyway. Yeah. And it was that humbling experience where I was like, "This is what I need to do." Like I'm missing out.
Yeah. That's so dope, dude. I remember when I first started, I think it was in like my first month, I did a very simple workout. And just like you're saying, I was like in shape at the time, like, but looking for something new. I just come from the regular Globo gym. And like, a month in, you think you're crushing it at CrossFit. You're like, "Dude, I'm going to the games and all this shit. Like, wait till they get a hold of me." So we do 21, 15, 9 row calories and burpees over the rower. Ooh. I puked after the workout and then dry heaved for a good 3 hours after that. Yeah. And it's just what that took like 5-6 minutes. I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel like that was my actual first CrossFit experience." Yeah. Like I had been doing it for that month. I learned how to overhead squat, do all the stuff. I didn't have double unders yet. I had done like maybe a workout a few years before when I was in high school, but like
that's when you could just go on that. You don't need to know how to do anything.
Exactly. And like when they, like that, they defined what is intensity. And I finally realized what it was, with the saying. You found out real fast. Yeah. Like the thing most commonly associated with progress. I'm like, okay, now I feel it. Now I know what intensity is, you know? But going back, dude, so you said that you didn't get into the gym until like senior year of high school. Yes. And then by the time you find CrossFit, you've become a gym rat. You're looking for something more. Yeah. How did that develop? How did you become a gym rat? Like what made you become like passionate about it?
Honestly, that senior year of high school, I did the typical Northeast Philly high school kid thing. I had a house in Wildwood with my buddies this summer, and got going to the gym there. just the Attila's gym I think it's on Maple. I forget.
Hey,
but that's like, that was, if you're like a meathead or you were a meathead at the time, that was like the best place to go. Like
rite of passage,
just rusty weights, like shitty equipment. It was the best. But we would go like, rain, sleep, whatever. Like it didn't matter what at the time we were in high school, or the parties we had the night before. We made it to the gym every day. And I think that really just like set the tone. Like, this is what I like to do. And like I said, I was a little bit overweight as a kid. I lost like 30 pounds that summer. And I didn't stop home from June until the end of August. And I got home and my mom was like, "What the hell happened to you?
Who is this kid?"
Yeah, you look like it was for the better. But that's definitely when I like fell in love. And then came home, went to a Gold's Gym for a while, went to a couple of different spots just in the Northeast. And then once we were in college and we had access to the college gym, I went to Holy Family, small school in the Northeast.
Nice.
Once we had access to that, and you're on that college schedule, like I bartended through college too. So my days were pretty open other than when I had class. So I spent a lot of time in the gym, and then just like, you get bored after a little while. You want to try different things besides the cable machines and all that fun stuff.
Right. So like we're around the same age, dude. And I know that it's just like weird feeling of our generation. Like you're trying to find yourself around that time. Mm-hmm. Did you have like any passions, or did you see yourself like doing anything like with your life from that age? Like, did you think that one day you were going to be a business owner?
So at that time I wasn't sure. But I remember when I first started my undergrad at community college, I remember going home after like an English 102 class or something, and like Googling like median income for personal trainers and stuff like that. And I was like, maybe like, is this like, I really like going to the gym. Like maybe this could be a thing. Mm-hmm. And I just more like, brushed to the side. I was like, whatever, I'm in school for like business or whatever. That's what I'm going to do. And went all the way through my undergrad. That's what my undergrad's in, like a general business degree. And nice. I remember my senior year of college, we did a personal mission statement, and I did mine on opening a CrossFit gym. That's what but by this time I had found it. And that was like my personal mission statement. And I had like the timeline laid out a little bit. And, at that time it was kind of more of like a pipe dream kind of thing, but yeah, it was the dream. Graduated, continued with for my master's in human resources. And then that's when I was in there and I got home from class one night. I was like, this is not what I want to do. Yeah. So I like right then and there decided to drop out of that program. And I ended up at National Personal Training Institute before I got my L1, so I could get like a good base. But it was funny that I found my old flash drive from college like a couple years later, and I forgot about that mission statement thing, and I read it, and it was like to the T. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Oh, like the timeline and everything was funny. I didn't even remember, like at that time I didn't even remember writing it.
Dude, that is, I'm like going through some of the same things right now, like that manifest destiny. When you look back and you're like, damn, I really did the shit that I said that I was going to do, Yeah. So do you still do things like that right now? Is that still like in your toolkit of exercises, like writing down your goals and your plans?
Definitely not as much as I should. I tend to be a little scatterbrained with that kind of stuff. So I have like Post-its all over the place, with like things I want to do, things I want to add, things I want to change, different like programming things that pop up in my head, whether it's a workout or just like the basis of like, I just made like a gymnastics weakness template for the members. Awesome. Just like certain things that I want to make sure that's in there, between like that. And I'm big on like Google spreadsheets.
That's good. Like staying organized, even with that scatterbrain,
Yeah, it's tough, but that's a work in progress for sure.
Hell yeah.
That Melanie's helped me realize how scatterbrained I am with her therapy background.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. I like, my girlfriend's like that too. She's very analytical, and she works in like the opposite field of me. She is a scientist and a lab manager, so everything is like numbers for her and organization. Yeah. So it's a good combination. Back to your training stuff, dude. So you get your first cert. What's it like training your first client? Where was it? Like, how did that go down?
So when I was still in college and I had gotten into CrossFit, of course, I was like that typical CrossFitter, like walking around to everyone in the gym, like, hey, have you heard of this? Hey, like, you know what CrossFit is? Yeah, I like CrossFit, blah, blah, blah.
So Ben Bergeron. Have you ever heard of Misfits programming?
So I was friendly with a few people on a couple of different like sport teams. So a couple of women from the soccer team at the time were interested. So I like quote unquote trained them a little bit. Like didn't know exactly what I was doing. Obviously, I was just someone who went to a CrossFit gym.
You guys would get together and they would do exercises and you would write them down.
I went to Home Depot and bought PVC and I would bring PVC sticks to the college gym.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I would bring like my bag of chalk and there was like an APB out for me from the cleaning crew because someone was bringing chalk into the gym and I found out about that. So they were like the first people I would say like I had any experience, like not training, but like kind of trying to show them stuff.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing about the school I went to, National Personal Training Institute, you spend half of your class day. It's like three days a week, 6 hours a day or something like that. You spend half the day out on the gym floor, like hand on training people.
Right.
So that gave me a lot of experience. But then after I got my L1, I graduated with that, went and got my L1, opened the gym a little while later. And of course, at the time you think you know everything, right. I have these certs. I've been doing CrossFit at this point for, 4 or 5 years. And then now if I look back at, cues I've given people or workouts I wrote when I first opened or whatever, it's like a little secondhand embarrassment almost, like, oh shit, I told someone to do that.
Yeah, bro, but you got to make those mistakes.
Yeah. It's all part of the learning.
Exactly. Like if you never make the mistakes, then you're going to make them later on in your future. So better to make them early on. Like people were asking me about like Super Total that I just did. And I'm like, bro, my thing is like at the first one, I made all those mistakes. I just tell myself I'm never going to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to make new ones as it gets bigger and better, everything that you do, but just don't make that same rookie mistake later on when you've been doing something for 5 years.
Yeah. The first time you do it, it's just a learning opportunity. Then if you start doing the same thing again, then that's a problem. Exactly.
So was Raid in the gym that you opened the first CrossFit gym that you coached at?
Yes. Yeah. So it was definitely the first CrossFit gym I coached at. I looked into like shadowing and a little bit here and there. But at that time I had felt like I had been around it so long that like I had a bit of a feel. Like I said, I think I'd been doing it for like 4 years at that point. Nice. And I remember being at my L1 at KOP and talking to a guy and a girl next to me, and they'd been doing it for like 6 months.
Right.
And they were getting their L1, which is great. But I remember thinking at the time, like, that's kind of, a little sketch.
Right.
But then like, looking back, like I said, like I didn't know half of what I thought I knew when I started coaching people. So it's just more of those growing pains.
Yeah. I have to talk with so many new coaches, like fresh off their L1, like, hey, that empowers you to know more about the methodology to share it with people, but not necessarily to train them or manage a group.
Yes.
And you do exactly what I tell them, like, hey, go learn more about exercise science, kinesiology, how the body moves, anatomy, so that if people ask you a question about something, you can answer them with more background knowledge than hip crease going down below the knee, chest staying upright. Like there's more to it. Like you're going to encounter different bodies every single day.
Right. That's why I was happy I did the NPTI route before the L1 because that's what it was a lot of, like anatomy and all that. So by the time I got to my L1, a lot of stuff that probably would have stumped me up, like anatomy stuff and, energy system stuff and all that. Like that was a second language to me at that point. Like I knew exactly what they were saying.
Right.
So that's not what I would, I was going to have trouble with. So I was lucky I did that. And then, like you said, the L1, like it gets you so like fired up and like rah about CrossFit. But that's why I think the L2 is so valuable because it really teaches you how to coach someone, not just like the methodology.
Yeah. And the trainers are tough there, man. Like, the trainers at the L2 are tough. I mean, I'd been coaching for 4 years, like, and I even been a head coach at a gym and done plenty of personal training at different gyms before I took my level 2. And I got one of the best movers in the class as my like solo person. So I do my group coaching, and it's on an overhead squat with the PVC pipe.
Yeah.
And the dude goes, "That's my favorite movement," right before I start coaching him. And so the coach that was watching me, he's like, "You didn't really do anything," even though I had been like making super small adjustments to him, like for a great athlete, And he's like, and I'm like, well, I mean, that's a little harsh, but like I didn't necessarily do much to change his squat, you know?
Yeah. We just had someone go and get hers, one of our coaches. And I before she went, I was like, look, no matter what you do, no matter if it's you moving or you watching someone move, like they're going to get you on something. So just like be ready for it.
Right. They want you to get the most out of that money, you know, like, especially if you're chasing excellence. I mean, there's 2 girls at least that I saw cried at mine at the level 2. And that's how it goes. I'm like, oh man, that's rough.
That's harsh.
But or what you were saying about the 6 months thing for the level 1, I had a guy in mind when they asked how long you've been doing CrossFit. He's like, I've never been in a CrossFit gym before. I've never done the training. I got my level 1 like a few months ago. One of my trainers at my gym wants to open a CrossFit section there. So I'm doing this to be able to affiliate, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, he gonna have a tough day, you know?
I got my, I had gone for my USAW back around that same time that I got my L1.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a guy that when we did our breakout, our one-on-one, I had he was a high school football coach. He had Birkenstocks on.
Oof.
And I had to like coach him through a clean. And I think it was Jenny Arthur. She was one of the coaches.
Yeah.
She
Damn, that's
no, I'm sorry. No, it was Kara Heads, who's an Olympian.
Yeah.
She gave me like a nod, like kind of, it was like we looked at each other and she just gave me a nod, like, look, do what you can.
Right.
And it was like we had like an understanding, like this man has Birkenstocks on at a weightlifting cert, like we're only going to be able to do so much.
Yeah. Damn, dude. I wish I got my USAW back then when they were still I don't think she's even teaching them anymore.
I have no idea. I'll tell you what, seeing her, the most impressive thing I've seen in person with weightlifting is watching Kara Heads move a piece of PVC. Like the way she could move around it and like had control. It was wild.
Yeah. I mean, for my USAW level 2, I had who was it? Mike Gatone. So that was awesome. Okay. You know, the director of training for all of USAW. So that was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
But to have an athlete there, that's like, oh man,
it was really cool. Really cool.
That's sweet, dude. But back to the CrossFit thing. So how did Rave start to materialize? When was your first thought of like, I want to open this gym? I know you were like wanting to be involved in it, but like, when did you sit down? Like, I want to do this. I want to open this gym.
I think that was kind of the thought after I dropped out of the master's program. It was like, all right, if I'm doing this and like, I'm going to go to school and get my L1, like it is to open a gym. So that was like the thought process from the start.
Yeah.
That time in my life is a bit of a blur because obviously the stress of opening a business, but I went through a ton of zoning issues that were, you know, I would say a little ticky-tacky with the guy, the councilman in Philadelphia for that district. So it took me from the time I signed the lease, it took me 7 months until I was actually able to open.
Damn.
With a lot of court hearings and the city zoning board getting sued to try and block me. And it was a mess. So like
that sucks, dude.
Yeah, that time was like a little blurry.
Yeah.
But
did you ever get deterred in that time period? Like, do I even want to still do this?
Oh my God. Yeah. I started, you know, like putting the gym together and stuff. And there was probably a good like month period where I built the rig with like 4x4 and gas pipe. And it was just like that, you know, bare wood and gas pipe and like half the gym painted for a little while. And I was like, you know what? I don't even know if this is going to happen. I'm going to stop working on it for a little while.
Damn.
And then like the city of Philadelphia government shut down. So like my hearings got backed up. It was like a whole nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was definitely a lot of doubt in that time. I started looking for a new place, but it finally went my way for a short period of time.
I got a friend out in Jersey right now. She already owns a CrossFit gym, Asbury Park Fitness.
Yes.
And they're moving. And she said the same thing, man. The city council out there, the township council, they're not really sold on having a CrossFit gym in the area and stuff like that. It's like, damn, CrossFit's been around for like 20 years now. And there's still
at this point, like you know what it is. Yeah. And I was trying to open in a 2,000 square foot garage in an industrial park in Northeast Philly.
Yeah.
And you would have thought I was trying to open like a strip club inside a daycare or something. It was crazy.
Right. Yeah. That's nuts. Back then it was you would think it'd be a different time, but obviously it's still going on now.
Yeah. It's a shame.
So I know it was a blur, dude, but like, what are some of your memories from that first year? Like before you even go into that, actually, who coached the classes in the beginning?
So I coached and I had another guy who I had met at NPTI. He had graduated right before me and they brought him back in to teach some Olympic lifting. Because he had kind of gone in the same path as me, where he had a CrossFit background, and me and him kind of clicked because that's what I always gravitated towards. Like when I first started CrossFit was the Olympic lifting part of it.
It's sexy and fun.
Yeah, exactly. So me and him had kind of clicked right away, and I told him, hey, look, when I graduate from here, I'm going to open a gym. Like after me and him talked for a little while, and I was like, if you want to coach, like you're in. So it was just me and him for a while, coaching every class, which was a lot.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
So when do you start to get more coaches? When did things start to like materialize a little bit more?
It took a while. So the first few years of this gym was like, it was crazy. Like I said, I went through all the trouble trying to open. Then that entire time that I was open in that location, a little over a year and a half, I think at the time we had at the most three or four coaches within about a year. Melanie was one of them. And then the councilman came back and I got kicked out of the building. So yeah. So right when things were kind of getting on a roll, we had been getting some members, got kicked out, had to find a new location within 60 days, or I think it was 60 days. And then moved into this location we're in now. We went from 2,000 square feet to 8,500 square feet. With not the people or the equipment to fill that out.
Right.
So I had some help along the way. And then things didn't really take off until I think it was January of 2017. One of my original members jumped on as a business partner, as well as one of the coaches at the time jumped on as a business partner. He has since left, but that's when it wasn't just me anymore.
Yeah.
And I had some help. We kind of shared responsibilities and stuff. That's when we were really able to like take off. And, when you're in it, you don't realize that, you're so run down from trying to do things yourself. Like that comes off, like people can, whether they know something's wrong or not, they know, they know you're not giving, 100% effort in when you're coaching, and, so people can see that and they feed off of that too. So it's not setting the best precedent. Right. So when those guys came on and especially now, it's been me and Sean is the other owner here for a few years now. We've been doing good.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
Because energy is a currency, right? And it's universal. People can feel that, so when your energy is off, especially for a prolonged period of time, like people are definitely going to sense it, and like they'll move accordingly a little bit around you.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you got a partner in on the business, right? Like how was that for you? Were you good at being like a team player and like splitting up responsibilities?
Yeah, I was like obviously hesitant at first because any change is scary. Right. Especially when
it was your dream and your baby,
you just took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of split it up three ways where I was like day-to-day operations. One of the guys was in more like programming, coaching stuff. And one guy was like more back house financial stuff. So it kind of worked out pretty well that way.
Yeah.
Especially like I bartended for 12 years. So the front of the house, like day-to-day stuff, like talking to people comes natural to me, and I can relate to people and all that. So that it worked out well to start. And once, after a few months kind of like of easing into things, it definitely got a little easier to just like, let go, I would say. And like, not worry about so much of what was no longer, you worry about it because it's your business, but not focusing so much on what isn't your responsibility now.
Yeah, like other people are like handling their stuff. They've proven it to you by that point. So you're like, all right, I'm good. We're in a good spot.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're just talking about like talking to a lot of people and how that comes easy to you, and with your members, your clients, the people that come into your gym, I'm sure you consider them family. They'll dump a lot of their stuff on you. You become like a therapist to them. Like they believe in you. They trust in you. Do you ever feel like overwhelmed with taking on all their stuff, and how do you decompress from them?
I wouldn't say overwhelmed. I definitely like when I'm not here and I'm not obligated to be anywhere, I like my quiet time. Right. But I wouldn't say in the moment or anything I get overwhelmed. As I got my first real taste of it, I had just opened the gym, and it was when one of the guys from Generation, John Bush, made it to the games as a masters athlete. They asked, a bunch of them were going out to watch him compete. Yeah. And they asked me to cover a couple classes. So I was like guest spotting at Generation for a week.
Yeah.
And one of the members who I knew a good amount of people there from my time there, but one of the women I didn't know was like, hey, no one knows this yet, but I'm pregnant. So I can't do toes to bar. I was like, oh shit. Like, why are you telling me? Oh wait,
Yeah.
I'm coaching. Oh wait. Like, so it was like, knowing that, like, that was like a good introduction to it, to where like, all right, people are going to be talking to me about stuff, whether it's related to the gym or not, or whatever it may be. And like I said, this is, compared to the stuff I heard and dealt with when I was, bartending, this is a cakewalk.
Right. Yeah. People tell everything to bartenders when they sit down, and you overhear every conversation possible.
Everything. Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love when like things from your past that are unrelated, like help you out or like help build the skills that you're going to use in like your actual passion.
For sure.
It's crazy how that happens.
Like serving people alcohol for a living and getting people healthier for a living couldn't be further on the spectrum of like what they are, but they've definitely interlaced somewhere along the line.
Hell yeah. But bro, so we were talking about how you were like fit and like becoming like the regular gym bro right when you got into CrossFit. Mm-hmm. So when do you start competing, go out to competitions? What's the first CrossFit competition you saw in person, like with like live? And what's the first one that you ever competed in?
So I judged SummerSlam at CrossFit Generation for a couple of years. That was my first one judging.
Which is a big comp too, right?
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big
4-person, one of the biggest ones in the area.
Back then it was still 6 people.
Damn.
Chandler Smith was there.
Right.
Sean Thompson. I don't know if you ever heard that name when he was real big around here. He would compete there. Like big names would go there. And so that was the first one I judged. I didn't open the gym. I had no thoughts of anyone from here or myself competing. I was all in on the fitness, which is, what CrossFit is.
Right.
Naturally people, come in, they see competitions, they want to compete. So I would tell people like, hey, like back when I would do the programming, I do it again now, but there was a brief time where I didn't. I would tell people like, look, I'm programming for class. If you want to go and try and express your fitness at a competition, like be my guest, like let me know where it leaves you. But we're not focusing on competition. And then I think it was right when I brought on the business partners, that I actually got into competing. I had done one in like 2015 at somewhere in Exton. I can't even remember what the name of the gym was, but that was just
Proven.
Yes, yeah, Proven. The Gals and Ghouls.
I've done that one before. It's a real fun one.
I jumped on a team just because there were some people from the gym that wanted to do it, and we didn't have enough people. So I was like, you know what, I'll just jump in. Like, wasn't really my thing, but I'll give it a shot.
Right.
Didn't do another one again for a few years, and then I can't remember the first one I did as like an actual trying to compete. I think it was at a gym that used to be around LBC, Battle in the Barrel. I always get that confused with Brawl in the Burbs.
Right, because all the work, they all sound so
the same. And I've done both of them.
Right.
And it was right around that 2017 time period that I started like trying to get a little more serious. That's when regionals was still around. We thought, maybe we can get a regionals team out of here. Yeah. That kind of stuff. So definitely, like, I still love competing locally, but those like bigger aspirations certainly aren't there anymore.
Yeah. Takes so much, man.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of time, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did decent. Like we would have teams from here that would do pretty decent. We, podiumed at a couple of comps. And I think the coolest thing I've ever done was been on the SummerSlam podium back in 2019, because that comp's so stacked.
Dude, SummerSlam is so much fun every year. And you talk about those when they had 6 people. Oh my God. Remember the year that they had the wooden log out there?
Yes. I have,
what they call that, the dragon or something.
The dragon. I have one of them in my loading dock.
Hell yeah. Oh my God.
we took one back and haven't touched it since.
That's because like it's so annoying to move around and all that stuff. It was like the what do they call them? The things that they use in the games.
The worm?
The worm.
But worse. Wood?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a sandbag compared to a stone.
Yeah, exactly.
One of them was like not that bad to move. One of them was like it's gonna ruin your half hour.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude.
Yeah, remember that year, the woman I was partnered up with on that thing, she's a hell of an athlete, phenomenal athlete, for whatever reason, could not get that worm, or not the worm, the log up on her shoulder. So we it was a 2-minute interval. We basically like sat there and dry humped the log for 2 minutes trying to get it up onto her shoulders. It was like, it was the worst.
That sucks. And that comp is usually in like July or August, and it's it's out on the fucking concrete. So you're burning up. Oh my God. But it's so fun to watch.
So fun. Yeah.
So fun to watch compete in. What was I just gonna? So, do you watch like competitive CrossFit? Do you watch the games and all that?
Yeah, I've definitely since I've started getting into it more myself from the competing aspect, or since I did get into it, I watch everything I can really.
So, a person that's about like the methodology, like myself, that all that stuff really matters to you. How do you feel when you see like the standards slipping through the cracks and all that stuff, like the Hiller effect? I call it,
exactly.
Of watching how much all of these high level athletes are actually like taking advantage of the easy way out.
It's I think annoying would be the best way to put it. I definitely, I was just watching one of Hiller's videos earlier,
right?
Because I know like years ago when they first introduced that handstand push-up standard, and we would see, people's Instagram stories of other local gyms not holding the standard.
Yeah.
And it's like, someone that's going to finish, and nothing wrong with it, but like someone that's going to finish like 20,000th in the world or whatever isn't being held to a standard. Like, all right, that's one thing. Like, shame on you, but you shouldn't be doing it. But it's not, at the end of the day, it's like a little inconsequential. It's still consequences, but it's a little inconsequential. But when you have people like getting beat out for semifinal spots because certain people are allowed to get away with things, and like anymore, you just kind of do it how you want to do it, and the penalty isn't going to be harsh enough to affect you anyway if you're at a certain level.
Yeah.
So it's right now, it's kind of like the Wild West.
Yeah, it's just, I think annoying is the perfect way to put it, because you don't want to go any bigger because it doesn't affect our daily lives. But
I will say, like, I coach a woman. We had a semifinals team out of here last year, and she's going individual, so she just did quarterfinals. Not that she got screwed over by anyone doing anything, anything shady. Like, she finished a little bit too far outside of that contention spot. But next year, like, fully expect to make a push, and that's going to be the stuff that is affecting her, because she will be on that, probably
the bubble.
Be on that bubble. So I'm going to be gradually caring a lot more throughout the year about that stuff, for sure.
Yeah, it sucks like when you get those bubble athletes and you see other people like affected. Like, Hiller had the video last week of a dude that got a major penalty and they didn't even view his video,
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, you gave him the penalty, which is kind of what we want, but how do you even know? Like,
and then I saw the Sam Quant got his appeal upheld because the intent was there for the V-ups. He didn't have his feet together, but he intended to keep them together. Something crazy like that. He intended to meet the standard.
I saw that too. That's worse than Brooke Wells with the
capacity. Yeah, that's even worse. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that stuff like that sucks. But like, what I was going to say is it's bigger than that, because like, while Glassman tried years ago to separate the sport from the methodology, that kind of fizzled out. So to the outside world, the people that we want to bring in, the people that need CrossFit, all they see is the bad, the other things. And it's hard for us as people inside the affiliates to then push like, hey, this is what we actually do. Like, the off the couch, off the carbs is still our mainstay. That's still what we're doing inside of these walls. What happens out on that competition floor is like, bro, that's not me. That's not us.
Yeah, that's a different thing. And CrossFit wouldn't be as big as it is now if it wasn't for the sports side of it.
Correct.
I remember, like I said, when I was in college, going around the college gym, like, hey, check out this thing. That summer was the first time the games was on CBS Sports.
And we got to watch Rich Froning do his thing,
Yeah, and I came in the next week, and someone was like, "Yo, that weird shit you do in the corners on TV this weekend."
Right.
And I was like, "I told you."
Yeah.
And so it definitely helped it blow up. But like you said, like, that's what people are going to see, whether it's going to drive them away from it because of like how intense it is.
Yeah.
Which we just experienced that with a new member. He was like, he just did his first class yesterday. And he was like, I didn't know I could like just go at my own pace. All I've ever seen is the games and my wife compete. Like, I didn't know that it was like this. But I think that's on us as coaches to like really make sure we have that separation. Like, moving for competition, moving for health are two completely different things.
Right. Dude, I love that you just said that weird shit you do in the corner. Cause that's like,
I'll never forget that quote.
That's how my friends used to refer to it back in the day. And then now 2023, Noble is at the NFL Combine.
Yeah. Yeah. That was crazy to see.
So the sport, the methodology, the brand has come a long way, man. It's crazy to look back and watch all that happen. So question, like, on the games, right? We talk about people skirting all of the standards and like the ethics of it. If there was a league, like if the CrossFit Games as it is now,
I know where you're going with this.
If there was a league with where steroids were allowed and they could juice out of their brains, like, would you watch that? Would you be okay with that as long as the game still was intact?
I'd watch it. Yeah, I'd watch the shit out of it. If it was like two separate things, like, hey, we're going to test here, we're not going to test here.
Yeah.
Because I think, whether they're, that's their decision to do whatever damage they're going to do to their body with all
Right.
whatever they're putting in there. But it's really cool at the same time to see like maximum human performance and like what the body can really do with a little help, obviously. But I think that'd be pretty cool to see. I mean, they do it in powerlifting. Like there's untested federations. So
hell yeah. And there was no better time in baseball than when they were juicing in the 90s.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was the best time ever.
Yeah.
So like if people are going to be honest about it, then let them go ahead, juice out of your brain,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, have it be a division.
Right. So now conversely, I don't know if you have a favorite athlete, if you had an athlete that in your mind that you thought was ethical the whole time and was doing it clean in the right way, and then you found out that they were juicing in a league that they're not supposed to, would that change your opinion of them?
I always say, because I get this question a lot with some of like the fellow CrossFit nerds that are at the gym that will ask me questions all the time about the games and competitions. And, they got to be juicing right. They got to be juicing right. And I always say, like, it's probably not as dirty as people think it is. It's definitely not as clean as people think it is. Ooh. And there's no one who I would be surprised one way. You can't name an athlete, no matter what their character says as far as how they portray themselves. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone got popped, because like the shit those people are able to do is superhuman. So if I found out that they were using, 3 different compounds, I'd be like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I nothing could surprise me. I probably wouldn't. I mean, I would look at them differently. Yeah. Like I was vehemently against Gerard this year, even though he had served his time. Just like it's icky kind of.
Yeah, it leaves a little weird taste in your mouth,
especially when you're robbing someone else of that moment. Like Vellner will never get that moment back, kind of thing.
Yeah,
where,
and Vellner's probably past his prime now.
Yeah, so it definitely leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So as far as like looking at them differently, absolutely, because it's right. I mean, right now it's supposed to be a clean sport. We know it's not entirely clean, but it's supposed to be. So yeah, but like I said, no one would surprise me. You could pull anyone out of there, and it wouldn't shock me.
Dude, I just said like something basically the same thing to one of my members like an hour ago. They were talking about different people on juice. And I'm like, honestly, man, if you tell me that someone is, I'm not going to be surprised. They could or they couldn't be 50%, either way. Like you almost got to convince me that they're not juicing because of just the sheer volume of what they have to do throughout the year to prepare for this, for your body to recover.
Yeah.
From a programming standpoint, dude, like, when is your peak period? And then if you throw in any off-season competitions, like that kind of throws it off, Yeah,
like not only what they can do, like you just said, like the amount of training that they're able to do is astronomical. And I mean, even outside of that, like you take someone that can run a 5-minute mile, come right in the gym and squat 500 pounds. Dude. Like the last thing I'm going to be is surprised if you tell me they're juicing. I'm not saying whoever can do that is, but like, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, what? Like,
yeah.
Like, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, I mean, people chase the 5-minute mile in history. For decades,
it's casual now.
Right. Like Sam Dancer back in the day was the winner on the deadlift. So he went first, but the last person in the 5K, whatever the trail run.
Trail run. Yeah.
And now people are regularly being able to master both.
You can do both. Yeah.
It's nuts. Like how that happens, man.
It is crazy.
But Justin, it's been a great conversation, man. Last question that I ask everybody is like, what are you hungry for now? Like, what are you getting after? What wakes you up in the morning?
Right now, this is like uber specific, but I'm trying to figure out a couple things with how we do the programming here. I've been doing the programming for a while. I love doing the programming. But there is that separation of, like we said, people who CrossFit for health, which is the majority of our membership base, and those people that want to compete, and they might not always go in the right direction, make the right decisions because they see the shiny object and they want it right away.
Right.
So trying to find a way to incorporate, we'll say like extra credit work that people could do, but that isn't just like throwing shit at the wall. That kind of is cohesive with the day-to-day programming. So someone can do class and then spend an extra, whatever it is, 30 minutes after class doing something to get themselves, closer to that next level that they want to be at.
Yeah.
And it's challenging because you want people to still be a part of class, because that's what, like, the blood life of CrossFit is, the community and doing class.
Yeah.
And you don't want to pull people out of that and be like, all right, here's our competitors program, and like, you're going to go off to the side and do that. while everyone else does class. So it's trying to mend those things together and make it, like I said, a cohesive program, an effective program where you're programming for people to get more muscle up volume, and then also for people at the same time to get their first muscle up. It's like, it's very challenging. But that's like been very much over the last few weeks what my focus has been for here.
I love that, dude. I've been like thinking about back and forth the same thing. Like KOPB, it's such an old gym. We have a lot of people that have been doing CrossFit for years, and like they don't even do any extra training, and they can make quarterfinals. So how can we add like an organized kind of programming, and not really for them, for our newer members, so they can obtain the skills that they want to obtain while also just getting the benefits of your regular. I tell people CrossFit is essentially a GPP program with a couple of sexier moves.
Exactly that.
It's not really the group class isn't intended to make you a competitive athlete. It's a general physical preparedness class with some sexier moves in it.
I feel like I'm talking to myself.
That's like, all it is.
Yeah.
And people don't really want to hear that because they do see Frazier and Medeiros up on the TV, and they're like, oh, I'm like, dude, Matt Frazier hasn't taken a CrossFit class for probably over a decade, if he ever took one. You know?
Yeah, don't look at them. They like the exception to the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's certainly a GPP program, like without a doubt.
That's what it's for. Like, I mean, our master's class that we have 3 days a week, like they do the same workouts, just scaled appropriately. Right. You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes we had a 20-minute AMRAP last week. I was like, I'm not even going to change this time domain. I'm just going to have you guys do a couple of different moves so that you can like not go and have 5 more rounds than everybody else because it's so easy, but then also not make it so tough that you can't get the same amount of rounds, you know?
Right.
That's what scaling is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still getting like that. People look at scaling as such a negative, but like you need it to get that progression. Yeah.
Like our masters last week, they did heavy chest to bar Fran, and their heavy is relative. Their chest to bar is relative. It's it's a lot of times I find myself saying, hey, I want you to go one step or half a step above the skill that you normally would, you know? And that's all the scaling is. Hey, if you usually do ring rows, let's hang today.
Yeah.
And whatever thing we can do, whether it's some kip swings, whether it's just a static hang, whether it's kipping pull-ups, whether it's banded pull-ups, let's add in the extra skill of hanging from the pull-up bar.
Absolutely. Yeah. You take that version of that skill that is applicable to that person, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's all just a line. Go up and down that line as much as you can. But Justin, dude, this has been a great conversation, man. I love nerding out, talk about some good fitness with fellow coaches and stuff like that are really upholding the standard, man.
For sure. This is a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. We both got to get out of here, go coach that 12 o'clock class, man. At least it's a beautiful day out here. Maybe we'll go outside, get some sunlight afterwards.
Oh, we got running today. First time of the season.
But all right, bro, I'm going to end this recording. All right. Dogs, this has been Justin Remender from CrossFit Raid. If you guys are in the area looking for a gym to drop into, go check them out.